Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. With me is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
Happy Friday, everybody. I get to say that because Brian's not here. Generally, Brian says happy Friday, everybody. So now I get to say it.
Yep.
Even with my mic on and everything.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Just passing the coronas around, guys.
A little Foley work. Very impressed.
Darren Smith, the disco dork. And welcome to the It Modcast podcast, Fistful Friday.
Yay!
TGIFF 8.
Yeah, do the Tokyo Drift noise.
Brady's doing a tiny dance.
Fast and Furious. Welcome to the It Modcast. This is our Fistful of Furious Family in honor of the release of Fast 8 or Fate of the Furious.
It is criminal that Brian is not here, but let's do his list for him.
Right.
Number 1 is the Ninja Turtles. Number 2 is the Power Rangers. Number 3 is every Tarantino movie ever made.
Number 4 is every Tarantino
Transformers.
movie ever made.
Oh, yeah, Transformers. Would he put Transformers in his family?
Probably at 5.
Number 4 would be Bad Boys, Marcus
Oh, of
Burnett
course.
and Mike Lowry's family.
So what I need all you listeners to do is tweet the Turtle Dork and demand your Fistful of Furious Family from him.
Mm-hmm. Do that. In the meantime, Lisa, wife dork, how about you start it off with your number 5, since you are here and present.
That's right.
Give us your number 5 in your Fistful of Furious family.
Okay, my number 5 is more in the spirit of Fate of the Furious, in that it's sometimes the family that you make yourself the family that you find.
And then you betray them and make out with Charlize Theron.
Yep.
Exactly. Is the most, some of the family members that you find are sometimes your most valuable family members and your partners in life. I wrote a little thing. I'm going to read my thing.
Okay.
Oh, shit. Is this a statement?
It's not a statement. I took notes to do this episode, but then you guys taped a Bruce Lee cast and you talked for like 4.5 hours about Bruce Lee, and now I've forgotten what's in my fucking notes, so now I just have to straight read them off the page.
Sorry.
Okay. It's not a manifesto.
It's not as of yet, but if you keep pissing me off, I might have to scribble one out. Okay. So, sometimes the most important family is the family that you choose. And through necessity and proximity, your love transcends to unconditional, and you can speak each other's truths, and you can argue, and you can set each other straight, and to outsiders you become inseparable. And for me, this relationship is personified, of course, in the characters of Rocket.
Us. Oh.
Oh, nice. The It Modcast family.
Of Rocket and the It Mod family.
We're such friends. Make us a bomb. No,
I'm going to need to borrow your eye, Darren.
Rocket and Groot.
All right.
Why Rocket and Groot? Why not the whole Guardians?
Well, because particularly, I'm just going on the films because I haven't read any Guardians of the Galaxy
would you?
comics.
Aw.
I'm
not
just
good,
going on the
guys.
films, and the emphasis really, the relationship growth that we see within the context of the film is they go from strangers, borderline enemies, to partners to friends. But I don't feel like they really, maybe in this follow-up film, maybe in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the relationship will be bumped up to that family level. But for them, their accomplishment and like their growth as in their relationship is that to friends. And for them, for that group of outsiders, that relationship is extremely important because they are themselves pretty friendless, with the exception of Rocket and Groot. And you cannot think of one without the other. Even they have grown to a closeness where they are extensions of each other.
All right. Well, you make me not feel so bad about that being on my list as well.
Okay, good. The instance I think that really captures the familial part of their relationship is when Drax is fucked up and Ronan now has the Infinity Stone. And Rocket's like, okay, Groot, well, we just have to go to the edge of the galaxy and just try to live out our lives for as long as we can before Ronan blows up the galaxy. And Groot puts his foot down and he's like, I don't think that's the right thing to do. We need to fight. Or he just says, I am Groot, and we just extrapolate. But there's no doubt that whatever they're going to do in this situation, in this high pressure situation, they're going to do it together. There's nothing that could split them up.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when Groot makes his sacrifice, and when they're on the ship and the ship is crashing, and he becomes this humanoid plant airbag, and he kind of goes around and protects everybody.
Groot hug.
A Groot hug. I think that he's doing that for Rocket specifically. He goes, well, to save Rocket, he's going to need to be surrounded by people. So in order to save Rocket, I need to save everybody. Though I do think that this sacrifice could be the sacrifice that ultimately bonds them into a family. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's why I feel like Rocket and Groot are a family unit, and they're inseparable, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
To be celebrated.
All right, good pick.
Thank you.
As I said, I had the Guardians of the Galaxy, but when you was like, well, I'm not going to say Guardians because they weren't necessarily a family, they weren't any friends, I was like, well, fuck.
And they say it multiple times.
Yeah.
They're amazed that they have friends.
Yeah.
I feel like that sometimes too.
All just standing in a circle like a bunch of jackasses.
Brad, you're number 5.
My number 5 it also goes to a comic book place. I was originally going to say Batman and Robin, but upon reflection and thinking specifically about the family unit of the Fast and the Furious franchise, I got to go with Batman Incorporated, the Grant Morrison conclusion to his epic comic run, where you have Batman, the ultimate loner orphan child who dedicates his childhood, his preteen, teen, and early 20s to this concept of not revenge, but vengeance. It's a fine line. Justice, but is obviously an extension of this anger that he has at his parents being stolen from him by this mugger in an alleyway. And he has the family of Alfred, the butler, who takes care of him, who becomes his adopted dad. And as Batman, as Bruce Wayne, enters the world of crime fighting and vengeance and justice, he encounters Dick Grayson, whose parents are also stolen from him through crime. And he sees an opportunity to help this child and take him under his wing, show him a pathway to channel that rage that he has. But Dick Grayson is very different than Bruce Wayne. Dick Grayson is not the moody loner type. He is an extrovert. I mean, he is certainly dying inside from the loss of his parents. But when he is connected to Bruce Wayne and through his education to become Robin the Boy Wonder, he finds joy in what he is doing. And the way Batman then experiences his child's joy, where, over the course of their relationship, he does become a dad to this kid. And that sets Batman down this path of being a father figure to a group of people. After Dick Grayson, you have Jason Todd, the second Robin. That is a tragic story. He loses Jason. He is murdered by the Joker. There's some New 52 bullshit in which he's resurrected, blah, blah, blah. But, he suffers loss again, and he doesn't think he's going to survive that. And, Barbara Gordon comes around, and he's a dad to her. And Stephanie Brown comes around, and he's a dad to her. And then he becomes a dad himself through his affair with Talia al Ghul, daughter of Ra's al Ghul. He has a child, Damian Wayne, that suddenly pops up into his life, a preteen. Damian is not Dick Grayson. Damian is much more like Bruce was. He is an angry, hate-filled child, and he is a mirror for Bruce. And the education of Damian Wayne as Robin is a tougher road to hoe for Batman. But, through that challenge, his family grows, and you've got Bat Cow now because Damian Wayne saves this cow from these evil bastards in a butcher house, and Damian Wayne, he puts his love into this cow, and now Batman has to take care of this cow. And Grant Morrison is just showing that all these absurd encounters that this loner, this supposed, dark caped crusader, god of vengeance in the night, is really, a sitcom dad. And it takes Batman Incorporated. It takes Morrison's entire run to show that Batman does have a family, and he's doing more than just, cleaning up the streets and satiating his own anger and hurt. No parents. Yeah, no. That Lego Batman movie. Where was Bat Cow? Missed opportunity.
It's gonna be in Batman 2.
Yes.
Electric Booga Cow.
I hope so. Like the great thing about Grant Morrison's run on Batman is that he basically said all this weird shit that's happened to this character from its inception, it's all happened, and I'm going to make it all work. I'm going to take all these silly, stupid concepts from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and so forth, and I say it all happened, and I'm going to show you how they all fit together.
Yeah.
And in doing so, he shows that the family man.
Yeah. Good pick. My number 5 is my requisite inclusion of Mad Max Fury Road on a Fistful, and it is of the 5 Wives. I'm looking at the aspect of that old saying, you can't choose your family, and it always interests me, and I find it fascinating when family are born of circumstance instead of biological means.
People fucking.
Yeah, and I like the idea, and I like to think about the idea of the 5 Wives in Fury Road as them being their family because of the circumstance that we find them in the beginning of Mad Max Fury Road. And we talk about this film countless times on the podcast, and we talk about the world building that George Miller has done in the creation of this film. And for me, because that world feels so lived in, and there are so many details that point at a life outside of the runtime of that film, I think about what those women go through and have gone through before we first meet them in the film, and I create this this idea in my mind that all they have are themselves. And Miss Gilly, the historian who writes the teachings of everything on her body, as a maternal figure for them. But I feel like for them, because obviously I don't think that they have their mothers and fathers aren't around. All they have are each other and Immortan Joe, and that's not a good thing. But I think about them being together and being there for each other before we see them, and even during the runtime of the film, how they are there to support one another. When Cheeto, she wants to go back to Immortan Joe because she's just so afraid, and this ordeal is so hard for her that she feels like it'll just be easier if we just go back to him. We're living the good life, and we didn't have people trying to kill us, and he provided for us, so let's just go back. And how the other wives, were trying to talk some sense and reason into her and think with a clear head. And that's what you do for your family. And me having siblings of my own, when my sister is extremely emotional due to a difficult circumstance, and she wants to, be very reactionary off of emotion, and me trying to keep a level head so that I can guide her into, making the best choice, because I care for her. And you see that in Fury Road. You see them saying, okay, if one of us is going to go, then we're all going to go, and just them huddled up together. Like it's literal that they're huddled up together in the back of the cabin of the war rig, there for each other physically and emotionally, all the way to the end of the film, and what they're willing to do, and the fact that they go through such a tremendous ordeal in the film. But even before that, Immortan Joe is obviously sleeping with them, using them as their breeding stock. And I have to think that when one of those encounters happens, that particular individual goes back into the company and the comfort of the other four wives, and they're there for each other to console each other. And again, going through something tremendous like that, and then the movie, what we see in the movie, has to strengthen a bond. And I have to think that they consider themselves and each other family. And and that's just that element of the film with the five wives. And so I have to put them on my list as my number 5. Yeah. Lisa, your number 4.
My number 4 is also on the theme on the family that you choose. And this film is about the transition of becoming a romantic couple to being a married couple to being a family. And this film is the Coen Brothers film Raising Arizona.
We think alike.
Oh my goodness, this is magical.
Yeah.
I'm feeling some kinetic energy here. Yeah. So the film starts with the unlikely romance between Hi and Ed, because Hi is a, disreputable criminal, and Ed is a lady cop, but there is an undeniable attraction between them. And so Hi proposes and they get married. And then they want to start building their family, and so they start trying to conceive, but for some reason they're unable to conceive. And so, but then you see their influence on each other, because through their relationship, Hi has kind of gone straight. He's gotten a job. Yep. He's no longer a criminal. But now Edwina sees something that she really wants, a baby. And so she comes up with a plot to steal one from Nathan, Arizona.
Because he has more than he can handle.
Yeah, he's got more than he can handle. Yeah. Quintuplets, that's a lot of baby. That's a lot of baby. And so together they conspire, and Hi sneaks in and he steals a baby. Yeah. And hijinks ensue. But what I think is really, really beautiful about this film is, like, through trying to get this baby, they almost tear their unit apart. But when they finally give the Nathan Jr. back, and they tell Nathan Sr., they're probably not going to stay together, they're going to break up. he encourages them to sleep on it, and they ultimately discover that they are family. They are now inseparable, and it is their place to grow old together and build a life together. And I think that that's just really lovely. And it's a great fucking movie.
Absolutely.
Nicolas Cage at his fucking best.
Good pick, Lisa.
Thank you.
Brad.
You're not just saying that because it's your pick, too.
No, that's a good pick.
Thank you.
I mean, it is a good pick.
I guarantee you my next one is not on your list.
I hope. Brad, your number 4?
My number 4 comes from a film that I talk about every other fistful, and that's from The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. That is Team Banzai and his Blue Blaze Irregulars. I mean, you know, I love this movie. You guys know that. It's very much in the spirit of the Fast and the Furious crew. You know, they're not blood related, but they are a group of eccentrics, weirdos, oddballs, and you get the impression that they wouldn't fit anywhere else. Like they found each other because they had to, whether that's, you know, Buck Banzai, you know, leading the band, but also what Rawhide brings to it. You know, Clancy Brown's character, he feels much like, you know, the older brother who keeps the gang together, and Perfect Tommy's the wild kid who strays away, but, you know, he loves them deeply. Reno, Nevada, even like Jeff Goldblum as New Jersey, he's attracted to, you know, being part of this group. You know, he obviously there's a celebrity around this crew, but the warmth and camaraderie and love that he sees in this band on this tour bus as they're, you know, fighting intergalactic red lectoids from Planet 10. You know, that's something that if you're looking for connection, you see those guys and you immediately you want to be a part of it. You need to be a part of it. You've got to find a way to be a part of it. And if that means strapping on some spurs, then so be it. Yeah, and it's a family that's, you know, has faced loss. You know, Buck Banzai lost his first love. Finds her doppelganger. That's a win. But, you know, when Rawhide goes out, I mean, that's a real pain. That's a tragedy within this really goofball movie. And it solidifies that group. And when you see them all come back together at the end over the greatest closing credits in movie history, it's this weird limbo afterlife situation where everyone's fine. That makes your heart grow 10 sizes.
Yeah. Good pick. All right. My number 4, this one is a family who's actually a family. They were born together. And that is The Incredibles.
Yay!
I like the idea of a family with superpowers, a family of supers. Because for me, when I look at my dad, you know, my dad was the first real superhero that I've ever encountered in my life. That was real. You know, he was tangible. He was someone who, as a kid, he couldn't lose. He could do no wrong. He could fix anything. He could save me. If I was scared, if there was a monster, if something bad was going to happen, I would want my father to come in the room before Superman. And so I like the idea of a father who is an actual superhero because, again, for me, as a kid and even now, I have a father who is an actual superhero. I can relate to that. And I like the idea of the siblings who have superpowers because I look at how my younger siblings look at me and they think the world of me. They think I can do anything. They look for me. They look to me for guidance. And, you know, my brother is, you know, my younger brother Mike, as cool as he is, I kind of find out, well, he thinks I'm cool, so he has to be cool. He models himself after me, so I'm someone he looks up to, and I like the idea of knowing what that's like to have siblings that look at you in that way. And then I look at my siblings and I want them to strive to be the best. I want them to grow up and to be superheroes, to save the world, to save people, I teach them to, treat people kind and do selfless things for other people. So I want them to grow up to be superheroes. So, the idea of a super family, a family of supers, and having a family where a lot of these ideals are in line and with how I want to conduct myself and how I want them to conduct themselves in society and what I want them to contribute to society. I gravitate towards that. And then, as far as the film goes, and, that's just an amazing film. It has heart, it has action, and, the visuals are just, phenomenal. And, just that cast and the different superpowers being metaphorical to me for different personalities. Like I have a different personality from my brother Mike. Zach has a personality that's different from me, and Katrina has a personality that's different from Zach. Like we all have different personalities, and I'm not the exact same, and I'm not a carbon copy of my father, but there are traits in him that he has that I have, and vice versa for my siblings. And so, in the movie, in The Incredibles, like they all have their unique personalities, they all have their unique powers, and they're all different in that way. But as a unit, like they are one. When they work together, they accomplish the most. And when I'm doing things on my own, I accomplish a lot. When I'm dealing with personal struggles on my own, I'm able to overcome them sometimes, but sometimes it takes my family to help me cope and deal with and get through things. And I am most triumphant when they assist me, when they call me, when they offer me support, when they give me emotional support, when my dad gives me advice. So when I'm working as a team with my family is when I'm victorious as well. So I just gravitate and identify with that aspect of those characters in that family. And so, not saying that my family reminds me of, or The Incredibles reminds me of my family, but I just see a lot of similarities there, and I can relate on that level to the family. And so, I have to have number 4 be The Incredibles. Lisa, you're number 3.
My number 3 has to do with this weird fantasy that Disney movies put in your head, and that's you have secret, unknown to you family members hidden everywhere. Like if you're having a shit time at home and your mom is being mean or unfair, you go, well, maybe they actually found me underneath a log somewhere and I'm actually a princess. Or, your sister's being evil and your brother's ignoring you. And you go, I'll just go to summer camp and I'm going to find my real sister. And so my number 3 is the Disney live-action film, The Parent Trap.
Yay.
The 1961 one with Haley Mills, not the 1998 one with Lindsay Lohan.
Aww.
Because I haven't seen the 1998 one. Because why would I? The Haley Mills one is perfect.
Homework cast.
Really?
No.
You have no reason to see this film. It's funny because it was a movie I really did enjoy as a child, but then looking back over, refreshing myself on the plot, it's actually really fucked up and dysfunctional. So the story is Haley Mills is sent off to summer camp, and she meets this other girl, and they have this kind of contentious relationship, and the other girl is played by Haley Mills. And so they get in trouble, and they get stuck together in some kind of punishment together, and they're like, you know what, we look freaky similar. I live with my single mom, I live with my single dad. Holy shit, we're identical twins! And so, so they do like a body swap to meet the other parent, because they're curious.
Yeah.
So, like, the girls switch so that they can spend some time with the other parent. And then one of the girls discovers that the dad has a new girlfriend and they're going to get married. So they're like, oh, shit, we want to get our family back together. So the girls come clean about the body swap thing, and they get the parents back in close proximity, and the parents ultimately realize that they're in love, and it would just be better if the parents got remarried.
So that's what Kid Contact meant in Pop Star. When at the end when he said the parent trapped them.
Right, you have to get them back in proximity, and once they're close to each other again, they're going to realize that they're actually in love. But the thing is, what kind of monster parents would be like, they fell in love, got married, made twins. Soon after the twins were born, they decide we don't want to be married anymore. So you keep one and I keep one, and we never speak again. Like, that's horrible. And I just, like, as a child, I was just so excited, like, ooh, I could have a twin out there somewhere. That's so exciting. And I never thought about, like, what kind of parents would do that to their children? And so I was like, well, they have to have updated this for the 1998 one. So I went to the Wikipedia. Nope, it's the same. The parents were like, we don't want to be married anymore. You keep one twin. I'll keep the other twin.
For tax purposes.
Let's never speak again. Like, that's so fucked up. Like, that's really, really weird.
Yeah.
I don't see what... Now, there is a documentary called Twinsters. I think I've talked about this.
It really happened?
Where it was two girls who... one girl was watching YouTube, and she saw another girl on YouTube that looked exactly like her, and she was living in France, and the other girl was living in the United States. So she contacted the other girl, and they found out that they were both adopted. And so it's a whole documentary about, them meeting each other, and they are identical. And so they do the, like, cheek swab, and they get their DNA tested, and it turns out that they were twins, and they were just adopted out to separate families. And they're like sisters now.
What are the... you know how many videos there are on YouTube?
I know. It's crazy. It's serendipity. And it makes you wonder, how often does this really happen? And how lucky they are to find each other. If you haven't watched it, it's on YouTube. And on YouTube. It's not on YouTube. It's on Netflix. Another streaming service. That is wonderful. It's called Twinsters. And it's amazing. And it was one of those where after I watched it, I was just weeping. And I called my real sister, and I was like, I wish I didn't discover you until adulthood. That's not true.
You know what's hilarious?
I probably love you differently.
Lisa.
Yes.
Is you've been trying to get me to watch this documentary for a long time, but you've been refusing to tell me what it's about, and you've just spoiled the whole thing.
Yeah, well...
I guess I was taking my sweet-ass time.
Yeah, well, my mom watched it, and she really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So it's a great documentary and just really interesting. But, like, one sister, like, really thrived, and she had, the girl who was in the United States, she had, like, super supportive parents, and she became an actress and moving to LA and just living her dreams. And then the other one, she always felt, like, reserved and lonely, and she felt different because there weren't other Korean children around, and she felt like she looked different, and she felt like maybe she was just always missing her sister, and she didn't know. So they're raised in these different environments, and the result is, like, these, like, different personalities, and it's just really, it's just really interesting. And I think even if I did spoil it for you, you should still watch it, because it's still really interesting. I don't think Brad would get it. He doesn't have siblings. He's an only child.
Maybe he does.
Ooh, maybe.
It is interesting that that's where you just left off, because when I was listening to Darren talk about The Incredibles and connecting to brothers and sisters and all that, and all I had was mom and dad, I wonder if that's why the majority of my list is... Fast and Furious families, families that have found each other, because not to, like, slight my relationship with my parents, because it's awesome and they're awesome and I love you, mom and dad.
Yay.
But I am fascinated by collecting new family members, our Itmod family. Yeah. I really do feel like we are a family. And when you track... before this podcast, our own relationships where, meeting on Peyton Doves, and then we had, like, a specific type of relationship, for several years, where we were just like loosely connected through Paul and that movie. Mm-hmm. And then we got together to do the commentary track for that movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, look, it's Darren and Brian again. But really what it came down to was in 2011, we went to Comic-Con together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that trip to Comic-Con is the birth of the Itmod family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, so is my number 3 Itmod family? No, I'm on a tangent. My number 3 is what Darren said, The Incredibles, which is blood related. Except my thing about The Incredibles is, and this is not a new revelation, this is what everyone says who reads comic books. The Incredibles is the one true adaptation of the Fantastic Four comic book. Mm-hmm. And how come Brad Bird and Pixar could take what Jack Kirby and Stan Lee did in that comic book and perfectly replicate a superhero family?
Yeah.
And 20th Century Fox cannot do it to save their lives. They've had 3 opportunities and they failed all 3.
Yeah.
Roger Corman had an opportunity. Well, he just didn't have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
The Fantastic Four, I think what 20th Century Fox, the films have missed is that family aspect. Mm-hmm. You have when you make that movie, you don't do an origin of Reed and Sue meeting and falling in love over the course of their adventure. You do that movie, they are married already. You should just jump right into the Jonathan Hickman era and have the 2 kids, have the Future Foundation, all these other incredible children who are orphaned are brought together with the Fantastic Four and are raised in their institution to help better mankind. Thanks also in part to the help of Dragon Man, the android dragon nanny.
Yeah.
And Ben Grimm, the adopted uncle, the best friend of Reed Richards, who becomes family, is family.
Yeah.
And it's this big, large group, and it is about smashing Doctor Doom in the face and battling moloids and tripping into the negative zone. But the reason they're all doing it is because they love each other and they want to, they want to protect each other, sure, but they also want to show their children the wonders of this world.
Yeah.
And that's captured in The Incredibles, and it's not at all captured in the Fantastic Four movies.
Nope.
And hopefully now Marvel can get it back, and in Phase 4, when Thanos has been taken care of and Galactus pops up in the end credits of that movie, it'll be everything I've dreamed for.
Yeah.
Because I really love the Fantastic Four. It's the original first family of Marvel. It belongs in Marvel. They can do it right. They understand that it is about family. Vin Diesel gets it. Marvel gets it. Fantastic Four, family.
Yeah. All right, good pick. My number 3, this is 3, going back to non-biological family. This one appeals to me in that the child being different or feeling different than and looking different than the parent. And that's Chappie. And his adoptive family of Yolandi and Ninja. We've professed our love for Chappie on the podcast multiple times. We even had a Chappie cast. It was one of our Itmod film clubs. And the part about Chappie that I identify with is that, and they don't even really stress this in the film, but it's just something that I projected onto the movie and into the character, is that no, I was not adopted, but at a very early age, my mother, who's Japanese, she left my father and me, my father who was black, when I was 2, and so I grew up only knowing my dad and seeing my dad and seeing an African American man and his distinctive features and his skin color, his dark skin, and looking at myself in the mirror and looking different. It was really weird for me as a child. There was a disconnect. Like, I knew that that's my father, but I just didn't understand why I didn't look like him. And because my mother wasn't there, it wasn't like I could see, I had a frame of reference. Well, I'm a combination of her, who has long, straight hair down past her butt and, really slanted eyes and a nice round pie face and, very distinctive Japanese features. And then I kind of have some features in the shape of my nose of my dad. So I'm a mixture of both. Oh, okay. So that's why I'm light-skinned. Because when you mix dark with very, light, then you get me. Okay, cool. But because I didn't have that, because all I saw was my father and his very dark skin, like, there was a real huge disconnect for me as a child. And, then I would get teased by the way about the way I look as a kid. And I remember coming home just like having this real identity crisis and crying in the mirror, asking like, why do I have to look the way that I look? And, I look at, Chappie, and he does not look like Yolandi. He does not look like Ninja. He doesn't look like America. He doesn't look like Dev Patel's character. But he had Yolandi, who she's aware that Chappie not only doesn't look like her, but he isn't even human. But in spite of him being different, loving him all the same as if he were a human, and then Chappie receiving that and being a recipient of it, not caring that she's not a robot and not caring that he's not a human, but still looking at her like she is a maternal figure. And, I related to that because, yes, I would have these conversations with myself. Why do I look different? But at the end of the day, when I was sad, when I was away from him, when something was wrong, when I was hurt, I wanted my dad. I loved my father. I didn't care at that point when it came down to it that I don't look like him. He doesn't look like me. I love him because regardless of the fact that, yeah, I'm lighter than him, my eyes are chinky, his aren't, my hair is wavy and straight, his isn't, but yet he doesn't treat me like those things matter. He still treats me like I look like him. So maybe it doesn't matter. And so like I just responded to that aspect of the film, in that Yolandi doesn't care that Chappie doesn't look like her. She still loves him regardless. And my father didn't care and still doesn't that I don't look exactly like him. He still loves me regardless. And so like I just responded to that immensely about that aspect of the film and those characters and just nurturing your loved one and wanting to instill right in them and teaching them when she's reading him that bedtime story about being different and trying to send him out into the world with the knowledge that yes, you're different, but that makes you special. And my dad, I would have these conversations with my dad, and I just remember him telling me that, so what? You don't look like me. That's okay. Like, but you're special. I still love you. You're going to not look like a bunch of people when you walk outside, but that's what makes you unique. You have to be okay with that, Darren. You have to be okay with you being different, or because no one else owes you that. No one else has to be okay with how you are and you're different, but you do. You have to be okay with that. And when you are, you'll see that other people will be. And so your uniqueness is your strength. It's your gift. It's okay. And so, I responded to that aspect of Yolandi's relationship with Chappie in the film, and so that has to be my number 3. Chappie.
Yay!
Lisa, your number 2.
My number 2. So, thinking about the Parent Trap and the dysfunction in the Parent Trap, my mind started going to the ultimate dysfunctional family in the film, the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yay!
So this film opens with Royal announcing his separation from Ethelene, his wife, to their 3 kids, Chaz, Margot, and Richie. And so this is a family of divorce, but Royal has this powerful influence over his family, and he has this expectation that every Tannenbaum needs to be extraordinary, and this dream comes true to a certain degree because all of the kids have this amazing prodigy level success. Chaz is like a math and business genius. Margot, who is their adopted daughter, becomes this playwright, and Richie, of course, is a tennis champion. And their extraordinariness actually becomes like this thing in the life of their neighbor and Richie's best friend Eli. He goes, "Oh, if only I could be an extraordinary person like the Tannenbaums." But 22 years later, Royal is living alone in a hotel, and he finds out that Ethelene is getting finally remarried to Henry, an accountant and an unextraordinary person in his eyes. And so he decides to fake stomach cancer so he can move back into the house and bring his family back together. And it's really, it's a movie about all of these kids working out this damage that this crazy level of expectation they had in working out all of these childhood wounds for the sake of their father, and then in turn in despite of their father when they find out that he is full of shit instead of stomach cancer.
Whoops.
He's full of garbage and lies. But in the total Wes Anderson storytelling, like it's quirky and it's funny, but there's a lot of truth in it and there's a lot of heart in it. Plus, the casting of this film is extraordinary. Gene Hackman, of course, as Royal. He's so imposing and yet at times so funny and so vulnerable.
Such an asshole.
Such an asshole. But for some reason, I can't help but feel for him. Like, because, you know, like his whole family hates him. His kids hate him.
I mean, it's
They
a
love him, but
family
they
of
hate him.
assholes,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But they're all appealing. Just,
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
appealing assholes.
Yeah, Ben Stiller.
You could do a
Great.
whole Fistful of Furious Family from Wes Anderson movies.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna have Life Aquatic on mine.
So was Brad.
Yep.
So was
Yeah,
Brad.
but then I was like, Team Zissou is basically Team Bonsai, so
Yeah.
Or, of course, Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's a family drama.
Yep.
But I had to go Royal Tenenbaums.
Good pick.
Yes, thank you.
Brad, you're number 2.
I see your supposed ultimate dysfunctional family, Lisa.
Uh-oh.
And I raise you the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Not
shit.
fair.
The Saw is family. I'm talking about Grandpa. I'm talking about Chop Top. I'm talking about Leatherface. I'm talking about Matthew McConaughey's weird ass one
Yikes.
in The Next Generation.
Yeah.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre family is so repulsive and gross.
Yeah.
But if you go back to that first film from Tobe Hooper, which has to be one of the most unsettling movies for me to watch, that I still yet enjoy to watch. There's not a wide range of movies that fit that bill that truly do disturb and make me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I'm also I have that compulsion to watch every couple of years.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of those movies. It's a really scary movie because when you finally do go into that house and you truly meet everyone, they all have their own sense of place in that household. You know, there is a chain of authority. There is ritual, there is love, and there is cannibalism. And, you know, in the sequels, those characters become more and more cartoons in the way that 80s horror films treated their their lineage.
Right.
Freddy got funnier. Jason's kills got more absurd. Texas Chainsaw Massacre family just got more whacked out and fictionalized. Fantastical.
Right.
And I love all this. I love Viggo Mortensen as the hitchhiker in Leatherface, the third Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh shit.
But part one, the dad,
yeah,
the brother in the van in the beginning, like when they pick up that guy and he like cuts his hand.
Yeah.
It makes you just like squidgy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Saw is family, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was the family I thought of first when we came up with this fistful.
Yeah.
But I thought, I can't end my fistful on the fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Why not?
Because I want...
Saw comes
because as much as like that was the Furious family that came to my head first,
yeah.
I do want my number one pick to fall in line with what you get in the Fast and Furious movies.
Right.
And, I think you could probably all guess what my number one is, but we'll save it.
Well, Fast franchise is getting so nutty. I wouldn't be surprised if there's chainsaws flying around in this fucking movie.
Oh, I hope so.
Man. All right. My number 2, I'm going back to Biological Family. And this one, I relate to the father. So this one is, my number 2 is The Host, the family in the Korean film The Host.
I should have guessed that.
Yeah, there was a giant creature in the I think it's the Han River in Korea, and it comes ashore one day, and it starts smacking people around and gobbling people up. And there's a family who sells squid on this shore. There's a father, and he has a young school-aged daughter. There is a sister character, a brother and sister. So there's 3 siblings. The father character, the older sister, she's not older, but she's an adult sister, and there's a brother who's he's like a business guy, yuppie type guy, and so it's those 3 siblings, the aloof father's young daughter, and then all their parents, so the little girl's grandfather, and so the monster comes ashore, snatches the daughter, and dives back in the river with her, and the aloof father of the young girl who got snatched. Over the course of the film, he has to, start taking life seriously, and he goes to get his daughter back. And so that family is not as dysfunctional as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre family or the Tenenbaums, but they definitely aren't the ideal and cohesive unit that they would like to be, and that most people think of when they think of a good family. They aren't as closely knit. But this tragedy of the young girl being snatched, and the father, the girl's grandfather, dying, because he dies. The monster smacks him to the ground and he dies. So the father, the family's father died, and the girl gets snatched. So that those 2 tragedies brings the 3 siblings together as they attempt to go and retrieve the girl, because they find out that she's still alive. And so over the course of that film, the aloof father who just can't get it right, tries his best to not only get his daughter, but change the way he behaves as an adult and as a parent. And I identify with that character because, as a father, I try my best to do the best for my daughter, and I take a lot of my failings pre-parenthood. I brought that baggage with me once my daughter was born, and it caused me to be very fearful and paranoid of choices that I make regarding her. And I was afraid that, who I was as a person before my daughter came into my life, I was afraid that that person was going to be who was in charge of raising this little girl. And I thought, well, all I did was fuck up as a person. And that was my life all the way up until I joined the Army. Like, the Army was the first time where I felt like, oh shit, I can make good choices. I can do good. I can graduate with honors. I can be the top of my class. What? Like, I've never gotten in trouble. The Army was the first time in my life where I never did anything wrong. Like, I never got in trouble a day in my military career. I've never had a negative counseling statement. I would have people say, you know, why can't my soldiers be like Smitty and blah, 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 blah. Like, it was night and day, and it happened. It wasn't even gradual. It was screw up every day, disappoint your father, have him worried, and then boom, overnight, I get the letter from my dad. I don't have to worry about you anymore. I'm so proud of you. And, you know, Darren, come over here. You're graduating with honors, sitting here in the award ceremony. Like, it was just night and day. And so, like, I went from screwing up to being the best version of myself. And then my daughter comes, and I get nervous. Like, what if that screw up comes back? But then she brings the best out of me. Like, I feel like I have to be the best person I can be for her. Her life depends on it. And I identify with that character in The Host because that girl's life depends on her father being there for her, saving her, rescuing her. And even before the monster comes, you know, she's the one that's being responsible in that relationship, in that family. Like, he's just sleeping the day away. He's not doing anything. And I'm nowhere near that. But just the idea of her taking care of him makes me say, I have to make sure I'm never in that position where Sia feels like she has to be the adult and I'm the child. And so I strive to be just like he once she gets taken, he gets his shit together quick. Not quickly. I mean, he realizes that, okay, I can't keep doing the shit that I was doing before. I got to start being mature and taking shit seriously and focus and save my daughter. And so that frame of mind is my frame of mind, like, every day when it comes to my daughter. I have to be on point. I can't be immature, irresponsible, and selfish like I was before. So I have to put her first. And so, yeah, like, I love that dynamic and that character arc in that film because it doesn't go the way that you think and the results aren't what you expect or think they're going to be. But at the end of the day, he still has a tremendous character arc and gets there, you know, in a very moving way. So that's my number 2, The Host. Wife Dork, your number 1.
My number 1 is a television family, a cinematic family that I lived with so much that I feel like they're part of my family, and that is the Muppets. I feel like I was partially raised by the Muppets.
Yeah. Even Muppet Babies?
Even Muppet Babies. Yes. I watched Muppet Babies. I love The Muppet Show. Mm-hmm. I watched Sesame Street. Yeah. I watched the movies. Those are ones where I have the taped off of television VHS copy of the Muppet Movie and The Great Muppet Caper, complete with 80s commercials. Yeah. That sometimes you fast forward through, sometimes you don't.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love the Muppets. They always teach the spirit of acceptance. It doesn't matter if you're a pig or a frog or a weirdo or a chicken. You're always welcome in the Muppets. And I feel like I can't stand when anything Muppet-like is being, like, defiled. Like, you know, whenever you see, like, joke Muppet spoofs. Oh, my God. I just had a flashback. You know, like, Conan O'Brien had this bit where he had literally, it was like a barfing Kermit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. It was so awful. And I would literally see it and cry. It was just so horrible.
Aww.
But I love the Muppets so much. Whenever I see the Muppets, I feel like that's like a piece of myself.
Yeah.
And I love how they're really continuing that spirit of acceptance. Now on Sesame Street, they're adding a new puppet.
I saw
named
that.
Julia, who has autism.
How awesome
is
that?
on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
And they've done it with such profound care and research, unlike, since Brian is not here, unlike the Power Rangers movie, where they're like, okay, this person is on the spectrum, the Blue Ranger's on the spectrum, and then he has no spectrum behavior.
He does like to clap.
He likes to clap. He has an enthusiasm for life, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But they really have gone out of their way to go with experts to really create a character an autistic character that is true to life, that kids with autism can see and identify with.
Yep.
And kids without autism can recognize and learn to love. Because I remember when I was a kid, on Sesame Street there was Linda, and Linda was deaf. And I learned to, think that being deaf was so cool and so interesting. And, I remember when we visited Linda's apartment and Linda's phone doesn't ring. When there's a phone, when her phone is ringing, a light goes off because she can't hear. That's so interesting. And, I was taught that people with disabilities weren't scary or weird, but they were interesting and cool and, how fascinating. And they always had kids in wheelchairs and kids who were blind. And they would come into my living room every week and teach me about life, and they're not all perfect. Miss Piggy is not, she has a temper problem, and sometimes Kermit doesn't communicate the best, and Fozzie tells bad jokes, but they're all lovable and they all deserve to be loved.
Yeah.
And I do love them. And the puking Kermit thing is evil. And I think that, I don't believe in government stepping in to censor things, but I think that there is a line, and that's the line.
Yeah.
That should be illegal, and somebody needs to be fucking arrested for that.
What about
shit.
that Muppet show that was done like The Office, Lisa?
I never watched it.
Yeah, because
I just straight up didn't, because I was afraid of being disappointed.
Yeah. It didn't last that long, unfortunately.
Because I think that there are a lot of people in my shoes.
Yeah.
Who grew up with the Muppets and are like, the Muppets are a thing. Now, I do love the new Muppet movie, The Muppets, with that guy from How I Met Your Mother.
Jason Segel.
Jason Segel. I love that one because that whole story is about, like, either you're a Muppet or you're not a Muppet, and it's okay to be not a Muppet, but it's also okay to be a Muppet.
Yeah.
It's
am
okay.
I a man?
Like,
or am I a Muppet?
It's about being who
I'm a
you
Muppet
are.
of a man.
It's about being who you are, and I think that's what the Muppets are all about. Like, if you just are who you are, you will be accepted. Especially nowadays when people feel this pressure to be fake and to be other and be cool and fit in. Maybe that's probably always existed, but it wasn't until I was an adult where I really understood that if you're aggressively yourself, if you're just you full time all the time, you will attract people who like people who are like you, and then you have no pressure. Where if you try to be someone else, then you're going to attract people who like somebody who is this bastardized version of you, and then you're going to exhaust yourself. So when you find me grating and you turn off this podcast, good. I don't fucking need you.
Wow. All right. Brad, she needs you. We all need you. You're number one. Fuck, Lisa.
What? Did that take a turn? I've been talking for way too long.
All right. You're number one.
My number one stems from a television show and a movie series that taught me, like Bruce Lee, as we discussed in our Bruce Lee podcast, that we are all one under the heavens.
The A-Team.
It's not the A-Team, although they are a family unit. I think there were some missed opportunities in the Joe Carnahan film to explore the familyness of that.
Yeah.
And it's not Simon and Simon. I thought about those two brothers. Yeah, it's the family that's on the USS Enterprise.
Yeah.
No shit. But in particular, it's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, the triumvirate. And if we're really going to drill down, it's not in the TV series. It's not in the first film, the second film, the third film, or the fourth film. The moment that I think of a lot about this family of three, these three brothers, they don't all get along. They don't all think alike. In actuality, they all think very differently, and they have very unique points of view on a variety of encounters. But when they're all sitting around a campfire in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, and you have Kirk trying to lead his friends in row, row, row your boat, and Spock does not get these crazy human customs, but he brought the Vulcan Lear. He's going to try.
Yeah.
And he brought, his marshmallow dispenser. So the guy's game. He wants to, be a part of this group. He wants to understand the customs of his friends, and he wants to partake in it. And they would do the same. If they went off the Vulcan, they would party with his way, right? And, that movie, as we've discussed in our Star Trek V review cast, and in our Leonard Nimoy tribute episode from a few years ago, it is not a perfect film. Some call it a bad film. Many do. It has a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But that scene around the campfire that cements them as three brothers, as a family, I find tremendously moving. And having lived through the original series of the 60s and Star Trek's 1 through 4, birth, death, and rebirth of Spock, and really how that loss of Spock affects the group, but also how the resurrection of Spock solidifies them as, no, we are family. When you were gone, we were not whole. And to have him back again is truly, something that they have to appreciate, respect, and just, embrace with pure joy and love for each other.
Yeah.
I think it's really by the fifth film that they are a family, the entire crew. But again, really, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Yeah.
And that they can, now go search for God and find a bearded hologram.
Yeah. All right. Good pick. My number one, Brad, tell everybody.
Mad Max Fury Road.
No, they were my number 5.
Oh, yeah. Number one, Bruce Lee?
No.
Bruce Lee?
He's a family just with himself.
Yeah, well, no. Bruce Lee, we're all part of Bruce Lee's family, Lisa.
That's true.
Hold on.
It goes. This one relates to me. Like, it goes back to me as a person, how I see me. And
Oh, shit. Oh, it's Seven Samurai.
no,
No?
Optimus Prime.
no. All right, let me tell everybody. My number one.
Why are you embarrassing me on my podcast, Darren?
I'll edit this
I
out.
know you.
I'll edit this.
All
out.
right, tell me what it is.
My number one is Ma and Pa Kent and Superman.
Oh, shit. Well, duh. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, Superman. Shit. Look, I was on the spot. I know you pointed to the Star Trek poster. You knew my number one. Yeah, edit this. Refix it.
That's okay.
Oh, it's Superman. It's Ma and Pa Kent.
Right? How'd you guess? And I'm leaving all that shit in there.
Oh.
Yeah. It has to be Superman. I just mentioned about my childhood and how I look different from my dad and how that affected me, and going out into the world and not feeling connected to people. Again, I mentioned I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. I went to school that was predominantly black. That's most of my life and my culture, and feeling different from everyone around me. I relate to Clark's plight when he is walking around and he's trying to figure out where he fits in his society. And the line that Russell Crowe says, you'll be the bridge between two peoples, the people of his planet of Krypton and also the people of Earth. Well, like, I feel the same way. Like, my mother's Japanese and my father's African American, so I have two cultures that reside in me and that I'm aware of. And I responded to that. I responded to Clark's mother, Cal's mother, sending him away when he was a baby, because her feeling that his life would be better somewhere else. I had that happen to me. And, him finding those two people to care for him, regardless of where he was from, regardless of his circumstances or what he truly was, him being different. The idea of love, paternal love, knowing no bounds, no color, no prejudice. Like that is something that, regardless of if I connected to anything else that is within that character, I mean, that's something that just appeals to me, period. I mean, it is something that, I want for the world. I wish everyone felt that way. And so, I mean, there are just so many different parallels with this character, and that his relationship to his parents, and, Pa Kent wanting to protect Cal from the world. I know what that's like. I know my father, wanting to keep me safe, but then also, wanting Cal to choose to, make the choice on his own. But if you're going to do good, make sure you go and all the things that you're gifted with, make sure you do something with those things to make other people, enrich other people's lives. I mean, that was something that my father instilled in me. Like, whatever you're good at, if you're good at drawing, don't just draw for yourself. Draw to make someone else happy. Use that to benefit some other people. If you're good at, being supportive and helpful or whatever, like, just do whatever you're good at doing. If you're a good medic, make sure you use those skills to enrich other people's lives. And so, that's something that I relate to. And, the idea of Superman and Cal not knowing his mother, but finding that in another. So Martha Kent, while I never had that as a kid, I mean, that was something that I would fantasize about. Like, I would wish that, if I don't know my mom, if my mom isn't here, I wish I knew what that was like to experience the love from someone who isn't mine, but doesn't care. It's not my biological mother, but she doesn't care. She just loves me all the same. Like that's something that I would fantasize about on a regular basis. So I just connect to that on, a very personal level. And, the family that I do have, them lifting me up to be the best person that I can be, them seeing me as a Superman, as a superhuman being, and making me feel stronger than I may truly be, but ultimately that being my strength. It's I have to connect on that level too. So yeah, it's my number one is Ma, Pa Kent, and Kal-El Clark.
It's a great pick.
Thank you.
It's the only number one it could have been.
I mean, it could have been Mad Max Fury
No.
Road. It could have been
No.
What else did you say?
Bruce Lee.
It could have been Bruce Lee. I mean, I'm so multifaceted. I could have said Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee and Shannon Lee. They're pretty cool, But it's got to be Superman today. Follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter. Let us know what your top 5, your Fistful of Furious Family. Hit the Turtle Dork up and demand his fistful from him. Do not let him think he's getting away scot-free without having to put in some fistful work. Also, you can follow him at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, Instagram. On Twitter, he is at the Turtle Dork. On Instagram, he's at the Turtle Dork 1. On Facebook, he's Brian William Young. You can follow Wife Dork at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter and Instagram. Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. I am Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias at the Disco Dork. That's going to do it for us. Be on the lookout for our ItMod Film Club in a few weeks, possibly a month. This pick is John McTiernan's masterpiece, Die Hard. Rewatch that film and then get your questions and anecdotes ready to submit so we can use that to guide the discussion on the podcast. Be on the lookout for our Fast 8, our Fate of the Furious review cast. That's coming up shortly. And well, that should be out already, right? No.
Well, it came out today.
Oh,
Came
yeah.
out today, guys. We all saw it. Darren was like, more submarines, more submarines. We need more submarines.
Maybe. And also be on the lookout for the month of May. It's ItMod month at the Alamo in Winchester. We're going to pick a film. Each of us is going to pick a film. We're going to be designated a particular weekend. We're going to go up there. We're going to host and screen that film, and then
Sign autographs.
yeah, sign autographs. So be on the
Hand
lookout
out
for that.
pins.
Mm-hmm. Oh shit.
Give
Oh,
high
yeah.
fives.
Yep, and maybe hugs.
Kiss your baby.
I'm not kissing no babies. Also, be on the lookout for our next ItMod Chatcast with Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, the filmmakers behind their new film. Well, they all directed Resolution and Spring, and their new film that they're promoting now, The Endless. We're going to talk all things.
We'll talk endlessly about the endless.
Yes, we will. And be on the lookout for our new ItMod feature, our miniseries, the Bruce Lee cast, or whatever it's going to be named. That's a tentative title. Wife Dork is tasked with coming up with a definitive title for that. But for now, as a placeholder, we're going to get the Bruise cast.
Dragon. An ItMod podcast.
No.
Dragon cast.
No. Dragon cast?
Dragon cast?
No.
No.
We're working on it.
I don't like it.
We're working on it.
I don't like being put on the
but
spot.
Yeah, our podcast about Bruce Lee.
Part
Be on the
1
lookout
is
for that.
out.
Oh, yeah. Check that out if you haven't listened to it already. The next one will be about Brad and I will be discussing and reviewing Bruce Lee's first film, The Big Boss, a.k.a. Fist of Fury. So that's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go see the Fast and the Furious film, and then whatever else. What else is coming out this weekend? Foolishly.
Well, so, Furious 8 comes out this weekend. But then, on the 29th, come out to the Alamo Winchester for the Furious Marathon, where they're doing all 8 films in one sitting, starting at 9 a.m. and ending at 2 a.m. the next day.
It's nuts. Tickets are only $25, though. That's a steal. So come out to the Winchester Alamo, support that, and watch those films. We'll be there. Eyes bleeding. Holy shit. It's nuts. But yeah. That's going to do it for us. Again, thank you for listening. Have fun this weekend. Be safe. And until next time.